I'm hearing music. I'm not hearing the host.
Yes, my people. That's you, that's still me. I don't know if that'll be. Oh, my take my head from up. I just want telling me. I'm gonna take a jump with my people. Hands up with my people. It's love with my people. With my people. Let me take a jump with my people. Hands up with my people. It's love with my people. You did.
And of course, our very own Alpha Ale. Thanks for that 10:30 in Soufriere St. Lucia and the Eastern Caribbean. Let's jump inside. Well, our show. Well, back inside our show, eh? Okay, let's big up to the technical team. Came aboard and of course to rectify the issues. So yes, let's start from Genesis.
Good morning, once again, Soufriere. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Police Forum. I am your inspector, Kim Roy Rennie, in charge of the Super and Chosen Police Station. As always, I want to thank everyone for and for supporting the Super and Chosen Police. And that was especially evident during the passage of the tropical storm Beryl, which impacted us on the 30th of June. It was a very interesting experience for us, given that even my station became compromised, and we want to thank everyone who came out to assist and came out to support this. I want to thank my officers for the excellent work that they did during that time, because whereas every other business place could have evacuated, we had to stick around and support and keep the station operating. I want to thank the Soufriere Fire Service, who at some point in time came to our support and allowed us to be able to operate and receive reports from the Soufriere Fire Station. So I want to say good morning to Mr. Descartes, who was instrumental in that, and the fire chief who approved it.
Confirmation, so you guys are no longer there temporarily.
No, we are back at our station. We are
Very
operating
nice.
fully at the Soufriere Police Station as we speak.
Okay.
And like I say, I want to commend my team, because they came out and did a fantastic job at cleaning up the place and allowing us to be able to operate within 24 hours after the storm. And you should have seen the state of the place at the time. Quite about 2 feet of sand and stones inside the station. So it was quite an interesting sight to see. But today is not about me. Today we on Police Forum, we have a very special guest, and I know she has so much to say to us. Ready so much to say to the people of Soufriere. And she's a very, very interesting individual in that, one, she's a female and she holds one of the most important position on the island, and one of the important stakeholder partners that support the police in all its crime fighting efforts. And today with us is no longer than Miss Fernanda Henry, the director of the Forensic Science Laboratory in St. Lucia. Miss Henry, a wonderful good morning to you.
Good morning, Inspector Rennie. Good morning to your co-host.
Hi, bonjour.
Morning.
Let me just thank Fernanda for taking the opportunity to be here with us today. Last week we had Sergeant Donatien of the Scenes of Crime Unit, who spoke so highly of the forensic unit and the work the support that they give to the police in terms of trace evidence, DNA evidence, supporting us in a multiplicity of roles, not just DNA, but also ballistic and drug testing. Yeah. So I think you are one of the most important stakeholders the police operate with. And I think our relationship is one that, if we continue to build on, will resound in tremendous success to the people of St. Lucia. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you for the invitation, Inspector.
Before I start, I want, should I go ahead, Fernanda, or maybe you could just tell the people of Soufriere St. Lucia, who is Fernanda Henry? Do you want to do that, or would you like to do that yourself?
I was hoping you would have done that. But okay, let's keep it brief. I already said the role that I play here. But just to let them know that I'm not just the director, as in, managing the institution, but I'm also a forensic scientist. Well, I'm primarily a forensic scientist, I should say. So I'm very involved, actively involved, and Renee can probably attest to that. In everything that goes on here, I do work on the bench, and I understand every aspect of the testing that goes on here. I'm also active in forensics regionally and internationally, because it's important to our professional development to have a good network, a good forensic network, because we don't do everything here on island. So it's important for when the police call and ask for a service, that I know exactly who, and the best and brightest that I can turn to provide that assistance, so that we can really have major breakthroughs. So that's also part of my work, and I really enjoy forensics. It's my life passion at this point. It's more than a job, and I especially enjoy the fact that it allows me to help people and to provide closure, especially to families, grieving families, to victims, to exonerate people who are wrongfully accused. So it's really a labor of love. So I'm happy to be here. I enjoy working with our colleagues at the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and more importantly, I enjoy working here at the lab, doing the scientific part of things.
Fantastic, and that is important. You made mention of your network, the people that you reach out to. And for me, as a police officer, this has been one of the most important skill or tool, I would say, that have allowed me to grow as a police officer. Not just knowing how to investigate or do the normal policing activity, but the ability to network and know who the right resource persons are for the right job. Because you will encounter situations, and we all don't know everything. We all cannot know everything.
Exactly.
And it is important to know who are the key resource persons who you could call upon when you are faced with the challenge. And then they could guide you and direct you and give you the best solution to the situation. So just short bio. Let me quickly run through this. Fernanda Henry, BSc Honors, MSc Forensics and DNA, currently serves as the Director of Forensic Science Services at the St. Lucia Forensic Science Laboratory in the beautiful island of St. Lucia. She assumed that position in 2017 after spending a year in Bermuda as a DNA technical leader. Prior to that, she worked as a forensic scientist too at the St. Lucia Forensic Science Laboratory, specializing in trace examination, serology, and eventually DNA analysis. For over 9 years, she was responsible for instituting the entire DNA section in the new lab together with Dr. Valerie Fuller of Tulsa. DNA have not been included in the original outfit of the new lab, so Valerie and Fernanda created it from design to operation, where she was trained as the first DNA analyst on island and now serves as the DNA technical lead. She is also a certified FBI Quality Assurance Standard DNA auditor. Fernanda has extensive crime scene examination expertise and experience, assisting at crime scenes whenever she is requested. She has also engaged in numerous training workshops with police and other stakeholders in crime scene examination, evidence handling, and preservation, and continue to work extensively to improve sexual assault examination on the island. Ms. Henry spearheaded the initiative to install 2 evidence units within the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, ensuring they were equipped with fully trained evidence custodian to IAPE standards of operations. She also wrote the General and Operational Manual according to IAPE standards and introduced a computer-based evidence management system designed by colleagues Daniel Gordon and Joy Quinlan. Most recently, she led the train of the island's COVID-19 testing team. Ms. Henry is an associate member of the American Academy of Forensic Science. She also recently joined the World Association of Women Forensic Experts. In 2019, Fernanda co-chaired the 4th Annual Caribbean Medicological and Forensic Symposium at the Harbour Club Hotel in St. Lucia, hosting over 120 regional and international participants. She has delivered oral presentation at the University of Ottawa Annual Conference in Forensics and Pediatric Pathology, Atlanta, Atlanta in 2019, and 5th Annual Caribbean Medicological and Forensic Symposium in November 2020. Ms. Henry also conducts training in expert witness testimony to ensure new forensic analysts are adequately prepared for the courtroom. In October, she made an oral presentation at the National Association of Medical Examiners conference in West Palm Beach, Florida. In July 2022, Fernanda vision for the laboratory of achieving ISO I 1725 2017 accreditation was realized, making it the only accredited forensic laboratory in the OECS and the second in CARICOM. She hoped it can be recognized Center of Excellence for Forensic Science in the Caribbean region. So, just reading your biography, Ms. Henry, this is such an accomplishment for Eastern Lucian, for us as a country, and for you as a woman. And, you know, I feel proud just reading this bio.
Thank you.
So it shows how much talent, how much potential we have in this country.
Yeah.
So can you just expound on some of what have been highlighted in this short biography on
Sure.
who Fernanda is, where she originated from, how she got a passion for forensic science, and what propelled her to the position that she is at today?
Certainly. I am from Denry, and I'm from the Denry Valley. You know how Denry people are. It's valley versus versus village, right? So I'm from the Denry Valley, and proudly so. My navel string is buried there. Um, but I think my passion, I've always loved science. So I think it's always been the curiosity part of me that I like to solve puzzles and I like to put things together. I think that's where it came from, just that curiosity. But I did not dream of forensics until CSI came out. You know that CSI effect, and it just seemed so it seemed so glamorous. You know that you could do science and help to solve crime. So I thought, wow, this is interesting. But I still didn't think that would be what I would do with my life. I thought I would be a teacher because I started teaching from a very young age. At about 9, my parents were teachers, so I was doing that for a long time, and I thought that I would be a teacher. But one of my best friends, her mom had an incident which was close to my house, and she told me about it. And I went to the scene, and I there were people all over. As still obtains now, I think police are still battling with interference of the crime scene by the public, and it's something I know the force tries to impress upon the members of the public that we need to stay away from the crime scene so that we do not contaminate the scene. So I witnessed that at the time, and I thought, oh, this is not going well. And that was back in 2000, yes. And then we were waiting for a long time, and I thought, well, why are we waiting? At if one of the police officers who had responded said that we're waiting for someone to come to take the pictures. And I thought to myself, my goodness, is there only one person, who is available to take the pictures? And I thought, well, that's what I should go to school to do. Because I was of university age, I thought, well, I need to go to school and study forensics so that we don't have only one person who is able to take the pictures or to process the crime scene. That's how I got into forensics, and I've never left since. Although when I returned from university with my degree, I went into teaching. There was no position with the lab at the time, so I taught and tried to infuse my passion for science into my students. And a few of them they took the bite and became doctors and scientists as well, which is really nice. But I got into the field, and I was mentored by Mr. Louis Murray, who is our longest serving forensic scientist, and he's still on staff today. Mr. Murray mentored me to become a trace analyst. And it was during that time that the Belinda Joseph matter, was we were sending exhibits overseas for processing, And I saw how, the exorbitant cost that was associated with that. And I considered, well, if we're spending that much on DNA analysis, and then this is just one case, I thought, well, how much does it cost to put a DNA lab in St. Lucia? If we've already spent that much money, surely we can't spend any more to do it ourselves. And we approached the minister at the time to that's when Valerie came into the picture, and we designed a laboratory, and we approached the minister and said, hey, so maybe we can consider using one of the rooms in the lab, which is here now, the one I'm sitting in, to convert one of them that was supposed to have been for research. Can we convert it to a DNA lab? And he agreed, and that's how DNA analysis started in St. Lucia in 2010. So we're grateful for that, and we have continued to grow. Well, of course, the lab closed in 2015, but we reopened in 2017, and there were just five of us, and we lost one along the way. So four of us really had to start from scratch, and now we have a staff complement of about 15. So we have definitely, had our trials and triumphs along the way. And I think achieving our ISO 17025 accreditation, which is the gold standard for testing labs, attaining that really is a testament to our commitment and teamwork, and to our love and passion for what we do.
Definitely. And, I heard you mention the Belinda Jordan mark.
Mm-hmm.
The mark, I think every solution is very familiar with.
Yes.
It's dear to our heart, and I think it's almost 20 years, or even more than 20 years,
Yes.
we were finally able to bring this matter to closure,
Yes.
which I think is a great achievement for us as a country.
Absolutely.
And, what the public don't understand is how important DNA analysis was in the matter. This
Yes.
was a crucial piece of evidence that helped
It was.
us get a conviction. And I believe, if we had people like you along before that, there are quite a number of other matters that we could have, put closure to. And that is important for the family members of those persons.
Yes.
That they have, that there's closure, that, hey, they know what happened. And you could never overstate how important that is,
Yeah.
to the family, to the investigators, because even some investigators who are passionate about the investigation,
Mhm.
but they want closure to their matter.
Yes.
And those things can really enhance and give the law enforcement, give the criminal justice system the competitive advantage in terms of
Absolutely.
criminals know that they cannot commit those crimes and get away.
That's right.
So it's so exciting to know that we have been able to accomplish that, and that we are in a position now where we are able to do some level of DNA analysis at our level, and that we can bring persons to justice, who have committed
Yeah.
crimes, and validate the rights of other persons. So I'm
Definitely.
excited to know that. Like you said, I know the lab was out for some time, and what you mentioned again was the cost that comes with sending those evidence overseas.
Yes.
As a country, I believe it's always important to build capacity within.
Yes.
And when you are able to do that, then you could save your taxpayers so much
Yes.
money.
Considerable amount of money. Mhm.
So I'm happy to know that. Just can you give us a quick brief on some of the services and functions of the lab as we speak? 'Cause
Sure.
I know you don't just do DNA, the lab support
No.
different ways. So can you just let the people know some of the work that you guys do?
Certainly. No, we don't just do DNA. Actually, we started off with drug testing, and that is these days they call it seized drug testing, or controlled substances testing. Primarily, we see marijuana and cocaine, which of course, is linked to the transatlantic drug trade, because of where St. Lucia happens to be situated. We there are other controlled substances or drugs that we can test because of the sophistication of the equipment that we have for that testing. So our equipment allows us to be able to test anything, powders, pills, liquids. So we are able to provide a whole suite of services with respect to drug testing to be able to identify drugs. Then with outside of that, we do serial number restoration, and that is to recover obliterated markings. And by obliterated, I mean where people have deliberately tried to remove an impression or a marking on an item. So, for example, on the chassis of a vehicle, if a vehicle is stolen, then we tend to want to replace the plate on the chassis or try to use force to interfere with the number that is imprinted on the chassis, or with firearms. Most recently, in this illegal gun trade, people try to remove the serial number from the firearm so that it cannot be traced back to the people who bought it or the people who may have owned it at any one point in time. So those are the two examples I can give of serial number restoration, and we use chemicals to do that. Then we also have what we call body fluid testing. So by body fluid, I mean any fluid that comes from the body, such as, and we specifically look at blood, semen, and saliva. So all of these come into play with respect to criminal activity, whether it be a sexual assault, a rape, a homicide, a physical assault, attempted murder, shooting, you name it, a robbery, a break-in. So we test items to try to identify human blood, semen, and saliva so that we can then go to DNA analysis to identify the source of that body fluid. Who did that body fluid come from? So whose semen is it? Whose saliva is it? And of course, depending on where it is, so for example, if that saliva is on a swab that came from the breast of a patient who was examined at the hospital, then that may, provide corroborative evidence of a sexual assault. Or if it is semen that is found on a swab taken from the vagina of a patient, again, related to sexual assault. Or if it is blood that is found on the shirt of someone who is suspected to have been involved with a shooting, then we would try to identify the source of that body fluid so that we can help to link individuals, link locations, link events, or disprove stories or statements. So we could say, well, actually, no, the semen that is found is not X persons. It's maybe there is someone else here. So that is the work that we do. And more recently, we are moving into two new areas. One is firearm analysis. So we have renovated our bunker to be a full firearms unit for us to be able to do comparisons, as well as databasing, and also identification of different components and tracing as well. So we're excited about the firearms unit. We hope to work very closely with our colleagues at RSLPF in that endeavor, because we are experiencing an unprecedented spate of gun crime, and it's not the numbers are not decreasing. So we need to be proactive. I think we're a step behind. So we have to really put the metal to put our feet to the pedal to move with haste to get our firearms units on board. And we also have an examination day, Inspector. We have a vehicle examination day that is, because I remember my own experiences of going out to crime scenes to examine vehicles that were involved in criminal activity. That would be, we'd have to go wherever the vehicle was, and that is normally outside somewhere. You have the constitute and you sweat in buckets, and and of course, what happens when the vehicle is exposed is that the evidence starts to degrade. So it's important to secure the vehicle in a space that is controlled, because we want to ensure the integrity. The vehicle is an exhibit at this point, so we want to ensure its integrity. We want to make sure that no other people have access to it, but that the evidence is preserved, because we are taking it away from the sun and we are examining it in a space where we are able to do all of our forensic testing appropriately and collect the evidence free of contamination, so that we can then analyze.
And that is important. I'm happy that you could highlight all the areas that you guys, the services that you provide, because you know, people don't see the amount of work that happens in the background. They don't
Yeah.
understand. And sometimes when the praise comes, it's almost like, well, as if it's only the RSLPF gets the praise. So, for example, the police that's smarter, you know, the praise would come to the police. But when you have institutions like yours who play such an instrumental role in, supporting the police's investigation, providing that expert evidence that will prove that case, beyond a reasonable doubt. This
Yes.
really helps in building the trust in the public in our criminal justice system, not just the police, but the entire system. It
Yes.
helps people. It gives us a good impression, not just locally but internationally.
Definitely.
I heard you spoke about the ISO accreditation. Could you
Yes.
speak a little more on that? Because
Certainly.
spoke about the new areas that you guys are looking into. So when you look at
Mhm.
firearm serial restoration, firearm
Mhm.
trade, when you look
Yeah.
at firearm analysis, ballistics, the reality is the island chains, the same way there is free movement of persons, there are free
Mhm.
movement of
Okay.
illegal items, drugs,
Yeah.
firearms. A firearm in St. Lucia could get to Martinique and come in
Yes.
to Martinique, and
Mhm.
vice versa. A firearm from Trinidad, which was involved in multiple shootings there, can
Mhm.
easily make it, because we have to understand how the criminal think. Um, they have a firearm that has been used, in multiple shootings,
Yeah.
and that firearm can tie them to a scene, and they
Yeah.
don't want it on their person for too long. So as a result, they're trying to find a way to get out. So then, okay, we've used in Trinidad, it has done 3 or 4 shootings, we're going to send it up to St. Lucia. The St. Lucia organized crime group uses it here to
Yes.
commit some crime, and then now, okay, it's a hot weapon, let's get out, send to Martinic.
Mhm.
Now you have this one firearm moving throughout the region, and then
Yes.
you think about ISO certification, and what does that mean to the region, the
Mhm.
other islands? How that can be utilized to support other investigation?
Yes. Well, the ISO 17025 accreditation is really, what it says is that an independent body. In this case, the agency is from the United States. They sent a set of auditors to come in to look at our quality system, to find out whether we are doing the work the way we should be doing it, what the standard is for forensics, and whether we are doing what we say we're doing. So we have to write down in a set of procedures, many of them. Everything here has to be documented. So we had to write that down to say, yes, we're going to do A, B, C. So the auditors came and to assess whether we're doing ABC the way we should be doing it, the way all other forensic labs do ABC. But in addition to that, we're doing it the way we say we're doing it. And so we have successfully completed 3 audits. In the first, you get audited every year. The first time you do it for 4 years. So we just recently completed our third one in June, and we actually succeeded that one with no findings for the first time ever. So you can imagine how ecstatic we were. But having achieved that means that we must do work to that standard. We have no choice. The value of that to solutions is that we have set this international standard whereby other laboratories who meet this standard, our work is on par with theirs, is equal to theirs. So they can take our reports and be able to look at our reports and understand exactly what we did, because they would have done it in a similar manner. So that's the value. The value is also in the quality of the work. You talked about us being providing expert testimony. We do expert witness testimony training every year to make sure that everyone here is prepared. Everyone here understands the boundaries with respect to what we can say in the witness box, because that's important. It's important for us not to mislead the court, because the evidence that we are giving has to be scientific, it has to be objective, it has to be fair. We cannot now introduce our own biases into the evidence. So we have to have training for that. We also did training on blood spatter and blood stain pattern analysis. So we made sure that there is a cohort of people here who can also provide that service to the RSLPF to be able to evaluate a scene and try to provide some sort of description, of what may have happened, maybe what type of weapon may have been used, whether more than one person was involved, that sort of thing. And also we did shooting incident reconstruction, and that training we always incorporate police officers in our training, because I firmly believe that we need to build capacity in all our stakeholders. So we also did shooting incident reconstruction to be able to do just that, reconstruct a shooting scene. Again, cognizant of being aware of the high number of incidences of gun crime that we have. Um, so with respect to the testing, all of our testing is accredited, and that means that the quality of the work that we do is outstanding in terms of that standard. So that's the value that we bring.
Hi. Like I mentioned earlier, we had Sally Donatien from the Scenes of Crime Unit here last week, Friday, and she gave the public, some insight on some of the work they do, some of the challenges they face as crime scene
Mhm.
organizers, and that was the prelude to inviting you here today, because I believe she spoke so highly and so much about the forensic lab and how you support the work that they do. So
Mhm.
I felt it important that just continue it, so that the public gets an understanding of what exactly is happening.
Yes.
From your end, can you tell us a little more on the relationship between you and the Scenes of Crime Unit, and an idea on how the process happens? Because you don't have a team that goes out on every scene. You can go. I know you are trained. Your team are trained,
Yeah.
but you don't go on every scene, and you
Right.
depend for the trace evidence that you ask for in the
Mhm.
state. You
Yeah.
depend heavily on the Scenes of Crime Unit of the
We
RSL
do.
to the collection. So one, can you give us there's some insight on how that happens, how the process happens,
Mhm.
and some of the challenges you have observed, and some of the areas you believe that needs improvement, because
Mhm.
the public needs to understand the relationship and how what they do on the scene as the public
Mhm.
can ultimately impact your work and the results
Yes.
of an investigation.
Yeah.
So can you just give us some insight on that?
Certainly, the our work begins at the crime scene. So the relationship that we have with the scenes of crime unit is, has to be watertight. And you talked about, so I'm very passionate about crime scenes. Recognizing, I think that our work starts there, and if it's not done well there, then it's going to impact the results of the analysis down the line. So our job is to support the scenes of crime unit. We do have a team that can go out, and we have whenever we're called. But as you said, as you rightfully said, we don't. It's not an automatic response. So the public wouldn't necessarily see us out on every scene, but I'm sure at some point they may have seen. Some people maybe they didn't recognize outside of the crime scene people at a scene or two. But what we've also done is ensure that we are capable of supporting the crime scene examination efforts, because we recognize that we all have financial constraints. We're all working with the same budget that comes from the Ministry of Finance. So the RSLPF needs that support from us, and we want to be able to provide it whenever it is required. So we have invested in full outfit of a crime scene support unit that can provide that assistance. I think our relationship can be strengthened. I think there are times when we can be more involved, because I can tell you that I've experienced it both ways, and by that I mean where when the lab is called in from the beginning, from the crime scene, and we are working with the crime scene unit on a matter, and then the results at the end of that are starkly different, and I mean better than when we come in towards the tail end of the investigation. So that speaks to the value of the team approach, instead of it being done without us and then us coming in at the end, because we find sometimes that we may have to make adjustments, and sometimes adjustments aren't available to be made because crime scenes change easily. So one of the things that are important, one of the things that is important for us to impress upon our listeners, the people who have joined us today, and the St. Lucian public, is for them to understand the impact, the tremendous impact that they can have in affecting the how an investigation goes. So when people rush to a scene, or when they interfere with a body, or they remove evidence, or they kick it away, or or they tamper with things, that affects our ability to do our work. I can tell you, definitely affects the DNA aspect of things, because DNA in its quest to be so helpful, the testing is very sensitive these days, and it picks up so much, maybe too much. So having other people get involved, it's what we call contamination. That's a big C word, and we want to avoid that. So the public can help us to do our work well by really staying away from a scene. But the scenes of crime office is absolutely critical to it all. I want to see the scenes of crime office get some more prominence, and for them to really be structured, and for us to develop some sort of system where we have all these layers of expertise to build the unit, so that we can truly develop something amazing.
Definitely. And I'm happy that you mentioned that, Miss Henry, that persons need to understand how they impact this scene. And what we have seen in recent times is, persons on a scene of a shooting, or, or some accident, persons come and they search the
Yes.
victim or the deceased and try to recover items, not
Yeah.
realize that they are putting trace evidence on that scene, trace
Yeah.
evidence of themselves, DNA, even perspiration, or, fluids,
Hmm.
which automatically, when you do your DNA analysis, would now pick them up, and now
Yes.
that makes them a primary suspect.
That is correct. And an explanation will be necessary.
Yes, they have to come tell the court, why is your DNA on this?
Hmm.
What is the relationship between you and him?
Yeah.
You have to come and answer that. So people need to understand that, they need to stay away from sin. Try their best to, they themselves protect the sins,
Yeah.
because the public are the ones asking for answers sometimes,
Right.
asking what is the outcome, what's an update, what is happening, you know. But if you are contributing to contamination of the scene, then you are making the investigation even more difficult.
That's correct.
So so you are making the work of the analysts, the investigators more difficult. So it is important that they understand that, and that could never be overstated. People need to understand how their actions can impact
Mhm.
um, an investigation.
Yes.
Um, I know you've spoken about the exploit of the lab, locally, from a
Mhm.
central perspective. But I also know that you work closely with regional and international partners, um,
Yes.
in assisting with investigations.
Mhm.
I know there's a very, very close relationship between St. Lucia and the French. And
Yes.
I know that you also, to a certain extent, work closely with the French.
Yes.
You care to speak a little on that and what the relationship is like, how that is improving the investigation from both countries and
Mhm.
on that.
Definitely, definitely. The French, I mean, the French is the closest neighbor we have. So it's really wonderful that we can we can collaborate with respect to investigations, and share information, especially in real time as well, so that we can help one another. Their support is absolutely invaluable. They have contributed some consumables and equipment, for us. We have had training sessions with them. We've had visits, and we are especially working together on the firearms unit as well, so that we can have that integration, where we can share the information, and because you gave the perfect example of a hot gun that coming from an incident here ends up in Martinique, or that
That's
someone that was shot within Martinique ends up here. So having that rapport with the French in real time really really improves the speed of our investigations and intelligence. So I cannot I cannot overstate the role that they've played, in our crime fighting initiatives. And also, you see, because Martinique is not on the not on mainland France, they don't have a forensic lab. So we can provide that service for them to help them, with their investigations, in quicker time. So we collaborate that way.
and that is important because what some of the listeners need to understand and know, especially some of our bad actors, is don't believe that you could go to Martinique and commit a crime and believe that because it
Mhm.
happened in Martinique that
Right.
the same
We don't
standard
talk.
practices that we do here will not be employed. Information sharing is a critical part of
It
the work
is.
that law enforcement do, forensic labs do, and that at the end of the day, those persons, the inquiries will come to us, and that we will support in identifying persons who will be,
Yes.
from our end, are
Yes.
responsible or contributed towards criminal offenses overseas. So
That's
it's
correct.
important to know that this relationship exists. It's important that we could share, information in real time to support. I also know that there is quite a bit of cross training and training being done between two countries, which help us, enhance the quality of our work. We help in knowledge transfer, which is important when you look at capacity building, when you look at the effectiveness of the work that you do. So it is exciting to know that it's exciting that that relationship exists.
Yes, and we're trying to establish that relationship throughout the region as well. And so we had one of the initiatives that we had was, to have a regional leadership summit, forensic leadership summit. So we brought together forensic players, police and forensic players, and prosecutors, directors of public prosecution as well, to St. Lucia, so that we could meet, get to know one another, so that we can, then again widen that network, so that we are able to share information, because I think information is power. Knowledge is power. Of course, information is sensitive and it needs to be shared along the right channels. But if it is not shared, then it can hinder our efforts at crime fighting. So, we brought those stakeholders together so that we could develop that relationship, so that we are able to share information, when necessary, to assist one another in our crime fighting.
Excellent. You've spoken about the services that the lab provides for the criminal justice system and law enforcement.
Yeah.
Does the lab provide any services to the private citizens of this country?
We do not. We do not. That's
So,
correct. We are primarily we work primarily for the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
Okay.
But we do provide services to other agencies within the government of St. Lucia.
Right, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I'm aware that St. Lucia, we're part of Interpol. The forensic lab work with Interpol, and in terms of sharing information internationally.
Yeah.
Have you built that relationship? I know Interpol has quite a bit of databases that they make available to the different islands and different members. Do you all support Interpol in terms of your analysis and your information?
Certainly, yes. Information sharing with Interpol, yes.
And that is important because what the public need to understand is Interpol is approximately 192 countries
Yes.
globally connected to one network, law enforcement network, sharing information on a number of areas from DNA to ballistics, to so many stolen items, stolen work of art, so many different areas, cybercrime, so many areas that they provide support, and information and training on. So technically, we can have a St. Lucian national who committed a crime in the UK, and the information can be shared between the two islands, whether
Yeah.
it be DNA or other information, so that what it has done, it has made the world into one small community where
Yes.
information can be shared in real,
Yes.
and
That's
that's
correct.
what we need to continue to build on as a country. That
Yeah.
we don't operate in isolation, and that everything we do is interconnected because the criminals are very well connected themselves.
Very well connected.
When you look at
Yes.
organized crime groups, they operate globally.
Mm-hmm.
From South America to the Caribbean, from the Caribbean to the United States to Europe, and
Yes.
law enforcement. We need to always be a step ahead to be able to keep our security, our civil
Yeah.
security at bay. So it is important that we are able to build this network, and look at how best we can solve or prevent. I always place an emphasis on preventative, where
Yes.
we could
Agree.
prevent, the commission of those crimes. So firearms, Miss Henry, the statistics are clear. We've seen that we have had an escalation in firearm-related homicides. On average, we St. Lucia experience between 60 and 75 homicides annually, and out of that, 90 to 95% are firearm-related.
Yes.
And it's exciting to hear that the lab is assisting in that regard. Um, can you speak on some of the work that you do in terms of to help the public know that hey, there's work being done, and how you contribute towards the identification of those of assisting in those investigations?
Well, the work that we do with firearms at this point is primarily with the serial number restoration, which helps with tracing. And I don't know if our listeners are aware that the initiative now with respect to the region is that we've decided that we need to communicate, that we need to have a better network so that we are able to share information. So when we are able to restore the serial number, then we are able to trace, and through tracing there can be prosecution of individuals who may be shipping firearms, who may be dealing illegally with firearms, etc. And we can also do tracing to find out whether the firearm was involved in more than one incident, so we can link crimes. Then there is the aspect of the comparison. So, and that is, well, there's identification too. So identification, which helps you to link cases. So, for example, if you found casings from one incident and another, and you look and you are able to do an examination of those casings, you can also determine whether the same firearm is being used to commit multiple crimes. And of course, from there is also the comparison aspect where you now matching things to say more conclusively, more with more certainty that yes, this is the actual weapon that was used to fire this particular bullet, that was restored, or recovered, sorry, from a victim, or on a scene. So that's where we're going with our firearms unit right now. We have accredited our serial number restoration aspect of things along with the tracing, but we are moving into the comparison and that databasing that will help us to share information across the region so that we can help our colleagues in Bahamas, or the Bahamas can help us, so we can help Trinidad, or Trinidad can help us, etc. And through CARICOM, through CARICOM Impacts, we have established a central gun intelligence unit. So that central unit will help us to have that better networking and integration to be able to share information and be a little quicker to prosecute these matters.
Fantastic. Well, we all are big fans of the CSI Miami and the Major Crimes and all the nice TV shows.
Mhm.
And on those series, we see things happening this, in within
Quick time,
a quick flat,
within an hour plus
yeah,
add.
everything is within an hour.
Hour and a half.
Give us, tell us,
Yeah.
is that true? Is that what
It,
happens?
it, I tend to be fair, because I have to be fair. There probably maybe one or two tests, in forensics that happen that quickly. Everything else doesn't. I can tell you that, and certainly by no means an entire investigation, of a homicide. Um, I can say that with a sexual assault, it happens a lot faster, and so the bulk of our work tends to be with sexual assaults actually. So we turn those around a lot faster. But homicides take a while, because sometimes we have this. There's a lot of evidence. First of all, we have to make sure that we understand the evidence. Why is it important? And then when we start the analysis, we do it in rounds. So sometimes the first round of analysis may not give us anything useful. And then we have to go through a second round of analysis, and maybe we may not find anything useful there still. And then we dig again, and then we go to a third round, and maybe that might be more successful with respect to advancing the investigation, because we're not the ones who complete the investigation. We are working, to fulfill one aspect of the investigation, which is the scientific part. So the science is one thing. So once the science is completed, there's still that other part of the investigation to be completed. So as much as we would like it to happen in an hour. And the other thing about the CSI effect is that it creates a false impression of what the science can actually do as well. When you see, the screen comes up and you see people, matching things, you get that DNA match, so quickly. It doesn't happen on a screen. Well, these days it's a little easier, I must say. But we literally have to get numbers, and we have to get a thing that looks like a graph, and we have to sit down and we have to manually, interpret it. It's not that easy. These days we have software that helps us to do it faster. But the software, but we have to do all the work, to make sure that the software can work properly still, because you can't rely on the computer to do it. It may not get it right, and considering that it's a matter of life or death, that conviction or that acquittal is a matter of life or death for an individual. We have to make sure that we're doing it, to the best standard, and to do it as thoroughly as we can. The other thing that we do too is we do what we call review. We have peer review, or what we call technical review, on every single case. No case leaves here without being technically reviewed. And what that means is that another person who is trained, who is equally trained, has to be able to look at that case and agree that the person who did it, they did it to the standard, and they to arrive at the result that they did. Yeah, so that we are able to stand by the result and say with confidence and conviction that yes, this is the result, and based on the science, because we're not being biased here. The science is saying that that this is what the outcome is, and sometimes it identifies a person, and that's a big deal. So we have to be sure that we get that right. So CSI tends to, CSI always has that that unique feather, or that unique fiber, or that that special that special
You know,
that that exotic bird you know or and then they find the exotic bird, it's the only bird in Miami-Dade. and
it's amazing that I done so quickly,
and the mother, yes, is the owner of the bird. And it's far from that, but I think that tends to influence our juries, because our juries come from us. Our juries are people who live and breathe, in St. Lucia, and they watch television, and they will come, with their own preconceived, ideas of what the forensics should be, or what the investigation should look like. So it will be until if you don't have forensics in that investigation, because it's like, what, we're in 2024 and you don't have some science in there, Yes.
Yeah,
So
and it's important you spoke about the peer review, and that is important in
yeah.
the final results, because, and I wanted to speak a little more on that. In that, some people may have this, because you said you were close with the police, and may have the misconception that, oh, them are not all part of one clique and they just
Mhm.
manufacture or support things, just to suit them.
Right.
But it's important that you spoke about peer review, and that the peer review may not be somebody from St. Lucia. It may
Right.
be an expert who has no kind of relationship
That
with
is correct.
yeah, or the forensic lab. It's just that
Mhm.
they're an expert in that particular field, and they
Yes.
are looking at what the lab has submitted and is
Yes.
asking and querying and saying and ensuring that it follows all the ISO standards, all the standards that are supposed to be followed. So
Right.
it's important that the public knows that.
Yes, yes, it ensures that's the accountability part too,
Yes.
and the part of the quality of the work. Yes.
Um, well, I mean, wow, the time has really flown by, Miss Henry. We've been there for
An
1 hour, and um, there's so much I know, so much more that you want to say. But
Always inside police from. Police from
yeah,
always has.
but it's exciting to hear some of the ideas and some of the initiatives that you have. It was a pleasure having you here with us. I think we may have to call you back at some point.
Definitely, of course.
So, of course, you see.
Um, but before we end, is there anything you just want to say to the public? Anything that you want to bring out? Some of the
Sure.
do's and don'ts that the public should try to avoid. You
Yes.
know, out on the crime scene.
Yes, it's not often that we get to have this opportunity to speak to the public. Like you said, Inspector, the work that we do is in the background, and we're happy to be there. But it's also important to us that the public is aware that we are here. I don't want them to think that we do not or we do not contribute meaningfully. So that's what I'd like to leave the public with today, with the reassurance that we have excellent forensic work that is being done in St. Lucia by St. Lucians. We're very proud to work here. We're proud to work for the people of St. Lucia. We're proud to be able to contribute in this way to our criminal justice system and to closure. Closure is so important. Just knowing what happened. It made, the court case may not always have the outcome that we want, but just knowing what happened and hearing from someone who can say, and without that bias, saying that based on what we've done, this is what it's saying. That we are
Yeah,
happy
definitely.
to be able to provide that support to the RSLPF. We are partners with the police in this. That doesn't mean that we give them the outcomes that they want, I can tell you, but we definitely work with them to get the best outcome out of the case. So I want to reassure St. Lucians of that, and I do want to say to our listeners to do what you can to help as opposed to hurting the investigation. So be someone who can help. And helping sometimes means staying away. Helping sometimes means giving information, and you can do that anonymously. Helping sometimes means being a friend. For example, if it's a sexual assault victim who needs that support, to go to the police to make that report, that's what helping can look like. Stay away from the scene. Try not to leave your DNA there. We'll find it. It might be sweat. It might be spit. You might just have breathed on it, and we may find you. But try to help as opposed to being the person who hurts the investigation.
Definitely. I want to thank you so very much, Miss Henry, for taking the time. I know you're a very busy woman. I know you have quite a
Thank
bit
you
of
for
work.
the
You know,
invitation.
and one of the things we didn't mention, a lot here is that the forensic lab role is not to always get a conviction, but to get the
That's
right
correct.
results. Because we
Yes.
may also protect you because
Yes.
somebody may falsely accuse you of a rape or falsely accuse you
Yes.
of something. And then when
Yes.
the test is done, it shows that, hey, this is
Yep.
not the DNA. This
That's
person is
correct.
living on the same. So
And we have done that. We
yeah,
have cases of
it
that.
kind of eliminates you as a suspect. So it's important that we understand, what exactly the role of the forensic lab is and how
Yes.
we ourselves can benefit as citizens from the forensic lab.
Yes.
So with
And I
this,
also want to say that we don't only work with the prosecution, we are not the prosecution's lab either. I think we worked hard to dispel that, especially among the defense community. So we want all attorneys. So we have a close relationship with the defense community as well. So for them to know that they can call and ask questions. We are here to provide information. We are here to enlighten, and not to we're not here to prosecute people. That's not our role. So we are here to provide that fair, objective, aspect to investigations.
well, once again, thank you, Miss Henry. Thank you, everyone, for joining
Thank
us.
you for the
Um,
invitation.
like you mentioned, you could provide information to the police anonymously via the 555 tip line or download the app, the police, or you could call us via 999 or 911 to provide information on a crime, anything that you believe can support with the investigation and keeping this country safe. So with that, I want to say thank you everyone for joining us and looking forward to our next police forum next Friday, God willing. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.